UNTV News and Rescue Command Center. This is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. The Department of Budget and Management says there is nothing to worry about on the current peso-dollar exchange rate. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Contrary to reports, the public should not worry about the seeming weakening of peso against the dollar, says the Department of Budget and Management. DBM says it is the result of the strengthening of the dollar as well as the impending increase of the interest rates of the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank.
It has nothing to do with the President's statement. It is, as I said, basically because of the strengthening of the dollar. Okay. And the outflow of hot money, which are now taking advantage of a stronger U.S. economy.
The exchange rate of peso to dollar this morning was 48.35 pesos, the lowest in 7 years. A proof of stable currency in the country is the heftiest gross international reserves in the Philippine Central Bank, amounting to $85.7 billion. The DBM reiterates that the weakening of the peso against dollar will not also result in inflation.
The other fear is that the depreciation of the peso will result in higher inflation. Again, that is misplaced because in fact our inflation target, official inflation target is 2 to 4%. We are much lower than 2.
DBM adds that families of overseas Filipino workers will benefit from higher peso value remittance as well as the exporters. However, the losers are those who import goods from America. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority meets with mall operators in Metro Manila to adjust their operating hours. Monokson will tell us why.
Traffic volume rise from 15 to 20% due to the holiday season. Traffic congestion often occurs near shopping malls in Metro Manila, especially when mall-wide sales are scheduled simultaneously. To ease traffic congestion, MMDA gives mall operators different schedule options to adjust their operating hours. This include the open late, close late option, wherein shopping malls open at 11 a.m. and closes at 11 p.m. Open late, close early option. Malls will open at 12 noon and closes at 7 in the evening. Open early, close early option from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Open early, close late option from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And the open 24/7 option. Mall operators have not yet decided on what schedule they will choose. MMDA OIC Chairman Tim Orbo said they just adopted what the past administration had done in previous years.
Para magkaroon ng coordination sa kanilang opening and closing. Sana mas late in the evening para ma-accommodate mas madaming shoppers.
MMDA also pleaded for companies not to conduct holiday parties simultaneously because this also contributes to traffic congestion, especially during December.
Baka pwede yung agahan na lang, spread out, and hopefully magsama-sama na lang sa isang venue.
MMDA pleaded to mall operators that their security guards be utilized in decongesting the traffic within the mall grounds. Security guards will undergo traffic management training to equip them with traffic organization skills. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Labor and Employment has banned companies engaging in contractualization from joining job fairs organized by the government. Joanano will tell us why.
Companies offering contractualization among their employees will no longer be allowed to join job fairs that are being organized by the Department of Labor and Employment. This is in line with President Rodrigo Duterte's order to abolish the issue of contractualization or ENDO system in the country. According to DOLE Secretary Sylvester Bello III, this move was initiated by the department to reduce the number of establishments practicing ENDO or end of contract among Filipino workers.
Tinityak natin na walang ENDO yan. Kasi talagang tutuldukan na natin ang ENDO. Ang lang itong naiiwang issue pa lang ay yung tungkol sa contractualization.
The secretary also points out that the government is on track in hitting their target of eradicating contractualization by 50% before the end of this year and terminate the system by 2017.
On target tayo kasi hindi ba sabi natin up to year 2000, end of year 2016, 50%. On target yan kasi meron na nagre-report na may 25, may 20, may 15, gano'n. So on target pa rin.
ENDO is the practice of hiring workers on a period of less than 6 months to avoid the regularization requirement under the law after 6 months of work. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources plans to recycle more as an environmental group asks the government to solve the waste problem in the country. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Gina Lopez is now looking into ways to recycle more garbage and give livelihood to the public. Based on the records of National Solid Waste Management Commission, the country produces almost 40,000 tons of garbage every day. And now they're coordinating with non-government organizations to look into policies. The DNR has chosen 26 convergence areas where they can have a scientist, marine biologist, forester, and agriculturist to study on how they will recycle our garbage.
Kung talagang mag-composting and ang sabi pa ni Cynthia Villar, yung plastic, pwede niyan gawin silya. If we have a way to do it na pwede naman gamitin ng komunidad, baka we won't need landfill anymore. No? So we're gonna try it out.
Meanwhile, almost 80 environmental groups signed an open letter to President Rodrigo Duterte. The group wants to immediately ship the 3-year-old garbage back to Canada.
Hindi pa po presidente si Mayor Duterte. Siya po ay napaka-aktibo sa pagtawag sa pagbalik ng basura ng Canada. Umaasa po kami na ngayon na siya po ay presidente, sana po maging mas agresibo siya.
Manila RTC Branch 1 has earlier ordered the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Justice, Department of Finance, and the Bureau of Customs to submit their motion for execution on September 30 to ship the waste back to Canada at the expense of the importer. But the petitioner says the court ruling allows the reparation of only 50 of over 100 of containers.
Ang kinaka-worry lang ng mga civil society ay doon sa 50 containers na in-order ng ating Branch 1 court ay may 26 na doon ang naitapon na sa Tarlac.
But even the new DNR secretary is pushing for the deportation of the garbage back to Canada. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
About 20 mining firms in the country are on the verge of facing suspension by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources is giving 20 mining operations 7 days to explain their violations following the mining audit conducted by the agency. The DNR says some of these mining operations had cut down trees without necessary permits, while some of them have affected the quality of water around the area due to siltation.
Once we receive their explanation, the department will review the explanation. Now, if the department will find that there is a strong reason that they be stopped in the meantime while they have to mitigate the violations, then the department may issue the suspension order.
We cannot allow them to continue to make money while people suffer. It's just not right at all. It's against the Constitution.
The DNR did not suspend 11 of the 41 mining operations in the country, but they will continue to monitor them. Prior to the announcement, 10 mining sites have already been suspended due to different violations. They have to comply with the DNR's to-do list, like rehabilitation to restore their operation. The Chamber of Mines of the Philippines is questioning the inclusion of anti-mining groups in the auditing team. The DENR, however, says these NGOs have the same advocacy in mining as well as the government.
We find it objectionable na kasama sa mine audit yung mga anti-mining civil society organizations. Because they're patently anti-mining, so may bias na against mining kaagad.
Alianza Tigil Mina is not really against mining. They're against irresponsible mining, which the President is against and which the audit team is against.
Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Several towns in Albay have been experiencing water shortage for weeks. Ray Pelayo is back to tell us why.
The towns of Santo Domingo, Pakakay, and Malilipot in Albay are experiencing water shortage because of scarcity in their water sources near Mount Mayon. To address the water crisis, the local government of Santo Domingo in particular has started the construction of a water reservation tank. Santo Domingo LGU believes that the reservation tank will be a long-term solution to the water scarcity being experienced in the area. Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Officer Engineer Edgar Balido says the water supply coming from their sources around Mount Mayon has been running short for 2 weeks.
Kaya nga po kami nag-declare ng aming state of calamity dahil po siyempre ang aming funding napakaang pundo ng ating LGU, kaunti lang po.
Construction is expected to be completed in 2 to 3 months. Meanwhile, Santo Domingo LGU has given 6,000 bottles of distilled water to residents affected by the crisis. In addition, the Bureau of Fire Protection has supplied some water that residents may use for washing and bathing. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Committee on Women in both chambers of Congress are pushing for the approval of the proposed 2017 budget for family health and responsible parenthood under the Department of Health. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The proposed budget for the family health and responsible parenthood under the Department of Health in 2017 is 4.26 billion pesos. This is 46.4% higher compared to the budget approved last year. The Committee on Women in Senate and House of Representatives joined together in a commitment to push for its approval without budget cuts. The budget, if approved, will be used to intensify campaigns and programs to prevent the increasing number and cases of maternal deaths, cervical cancer, breast cancer, and teenage pregnancies in the country.
Kasama na po sa DOH Family Health and Responsible Parenthood items yung vaccines, HPV vaccines against cervical cancer. And of course, yung PhilHealth benefit package for catastrophic illnesses already include packages for some cancers.
Ang mga serbisyo para sa pagbibigay ng immunisasyon sa mga bata, para sa maternal health care. Ngayon, makikita natin na ang incidence ng maternal deaths, 220,000 out of a million. So, napakataas.
Based on a study of health groups, there are many cases of Filipinas dying from cervical and breast cancer. In Asia, the Philippines is the only country with a high rate of teenage pregnancy. It increased to more than 13% this year. Even cases of HIV in teens in the Philippines continue to increase. One of the problems seen by the committees is the lack of equipment and things to assess individuals who have cancer.
Karamihan dito ay mas death hindi dahil sa kulang sa impormasyon on the symptoms but it's accessing yung mga test na kailangan to determine if they are indeed afflicted with the two cancers.
Both committees on women also clarified that the allocation of budget for the family health and responsible parenthood in the RH law doesn't only focus on the distribution of contraceptives.
Para maprotektahan ang kalusugan ng hindi lang ng ating mga nanay, hindi lang ng ating mga kababaihan, kundi pati na rin ang pagbibigay atensyon sa malnutrisyon ng kabataan. Hindi lang to tungkol sa mga kondom at sa mga contraceptives.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Motorists on some major roads in Metro Manila are experiencing moderate flow of vehicles. On Baclaran Rojas Boulevard, expect light traffic on the lanes going to Manila and Coastal Road. On España Blumentritt, the flow of vehicles is moderate on the southbound lane. This is also true on the opposite lane or the lane going to UST. Meanwhile, in Guadalupe, expect moderate to heavy traffic on the lane going to Shaw Boulevard. On the lane going to Ayala, expect a smooth flow of vehicles. In Letra Malabon, expect light traffic on the lanes going to C4, Navotas, and Monumento.
Next in Y News. The Department of Justice uncovers another evidence that may implicate Senator Laila de Lima in the illegal drug operations inside the New Bilibid prisons.
President Duterte apologizes to some local government officials included in the drug matrix.
And the Philippine National Police is determined to track down the contact of arrested Abu Sayyaf gun supplier from inside the government arsenal.
Y News will be right back. Around 300 million pesos seized from the New Bilibid prisons during a raid in 2014 has been missing. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice has uncovered yet another piece of evidence that may possibly implicate Senator Laila de Lima. Two witnesses, an inmate and a government intelligence agent, has come forward to reveal that around 300 million pesos drug money from New Bilibid prison has been missing. The drug money was seized during a raid inside the maximum security compound on December 15, 2014, led by the former Justice Secretary.
Ang sinabi lang sa dyaryo, 1,600,000 lang ang parang more or less na nakuha nila. But in reality, sabi ng testigo, mahigit po niya yan ng 300 million.
Aguirre says this was mentioned in the report filed by the agent. De Lima has denied the allegation.
Tanungin nyo na lang lahat ng mga agencies involved in the operations kung totoo yan. Wala pong ganon. Anong 300M? Lalong nagiging fantastic yung mga istorya nila. Wala nang ibang mga maisip.
Meanwhile, Aguirre didn't deny that the government is using everything to pin down and indict De Lima.
Kapag naniniwala ang gobyerno, ako naniniwala unang-una na talagang may kasalanan siya. So we have to use everything kung kinakailangan ipin down. Otherwise, pag hindi mo ginamit lahat, baka makawala pa yung may kasalanan.
He adds that they are even willing to put De Lima's driver and alleged lover, Ronnie Dayan, under government protection.
I am inviting him na sana umapir siya sa Congress. Sabihin niya yung totoo doon.
Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Senator Laila de Lima is challenging Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre to freeze the bank accounts that he tags as her conduits in receiving money from drug operations. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Senator Laila de Lima denies anew that she used certain bank accounts to receive money from drug operations inside the New Bilibid prison. She urges Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre to freeze the accounts should they be able to provide evidence that these were hers.
Kung kumbinsido po kayo na yung mga so-called bank accounts na yan ay accounts ko pero nasa pangalan ng iba, pakisabi po sa mga bangko na yan, i-freeze na yung mga accounts na yan.
De Lima says she's been receiving reports that until now, Vitaliano's camp is convincing inmate JB Sebastian and his wife to also testify against her. She adds that the insinuations that she had an affair with Sebastian only proves Aguirre's desperation to fight evidence to prove her guilt.
I've been getting A1 information about that na I think even yung asawa ni Mr. Sebastian pinipilit na siya, kino-convince na siya na mag-testify ka na rin kasi ikaw na ang naiipit, ang gusto lang naman nila.
The lady senator is also urging the councils and the colleagues of the president to advise him to just focus on the more important issues the country is facing rather than on demolition plans against his critics. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Senator Antonio Trillanes IV pleads not guilty of libel charges filed against him by former Makati City Mayor Junjun Binay before the Makati City Regional Trial Court, Branch 142. Binay filed a libel complaint against the senator last year after Trillanes pronounced that the Binays bribed two justices of the Court of Appeals in exchange for the issuance of the temporary restraining order on Binay's first suspension ordered by the Office of the Ombudsman. The senator says he is ready to face the case and stands by what he said about the Binays.
Kanina yung arraignment ko, so nag-plea ako ng not guilty. At I submitted myself to the legal process. Hinaharap ko to. And it will not stop me from bringing down corrupt people like them. Hindi ako matitinag if I will speak my mind again in the future. Kung kailangan, gagawin ko.
The Office of the Ombudsman opposes the proposed bill of House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez, which seeks to exempt public officials from preventive suspension. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The Office of the Ombudsman disapproves the proposed bill of House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez, which seeks to exempt public officials from preventive suspension.
So we disagree with this premise, Madam Chair. It is our position that the mere fact that a public officer no longer occupies the position where the offense or in relation to which the offense was committed, we believe that the possibility of tampering of witnesses, influencing of witnesses and tampering of the records still exists.
The Deputy Ombudsman emphasized that the public officials facing complaints may possibly influence the investigation if they remain in their post. But the minority are not convinced by this argument.
That is not so anymore. That reason is not applicable to persons who are occupying another position.
More than 50 lawmakers are already supporting the said measures introduced by the House leadership that aims to amend the provisions of Republic Act No. 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, particularly the exemption of public officials from preventive suspension, given that the complaints filed before the Office of the Ombudsman is in connection with their former position in government.
Ang issue doon, after preventively suspending them 6 months during the investigation before the Ombudsman, again, you will move for the suspension of the same alleged public officer, erring public officer, for another 90 days. Di ba parang overkill na yun?
The House Bill 3605 has now referred to the Technical Working Group to further study the said measures. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
President Rodrigo Duterte apologizes to some local government officials mentioned in the drug matrix that he made public. He particularly offers his apologies to Pangasinan Congressman Amado Espino, Pangasinan Provincial Administrator Rafi Baraan, and Pangasinan District Board Member Raul Espino. He made the statement after his inspection of an alleged Mega Shabu laboratory in Arayat, Pampanga this afternoon.
But insofar as the drug, I think that somehow we were negligent in counter-checking during the first report. So to kay Espino and even to Sison at kay Baraan, yung kapatid, wag yung undersecretary, sabi talaga yun. So I believe it. I would like to apologize to you publicly. And I would say now, I am very sorry.
The president also says the mega laboratory is connected to the illegal drug trade inside the new Bilibid prisons. Meanwhile, President Duterte will make his final narco list public when he returns from Vietnam on Friday. Authorities suspect that some soldiers are selling arms and ammunition to so-called enemies of the state. Brian De Paz tells us why.
Two soldiers are facing court-martial proceedings for allegedly reselling firearms and ammunition to lawless elements in Basilan and Compostela Valley. The Armed Forces of the Philippines says such a development proves that the military does not condone wrongdoings within their ranks, especially as there are laws they have to follow.
isang malaking kasalanan sa ating mga kasamahan sa Armed Forces of the Philippines na ang mga armas at ammunition ay posibleng naibebenta sa mga sibilyan at posibleng even sa ating mga kaaway.
Article of War 85 strictly prohibits the reselling of bullets and arms of the AFP to enemies of the state. Colonel Arevalo says the AFP is still investigating reports that other members of the military are also involved in such offense.
We are not going to take this lightly. The armed forces is very keen, very seriously looking into this sapagkat hindi ito maliit na offense. Ito ay isang malaking offense.
The AFP adds that every firearm and ammunition purchased by the government undergoes a thorough inventory. The military also do not use private vehicles in reselling firearms and ammunition from the arsenal of the government. The AFP once again clarifies that they have yet to receive information that the members of Abu Sayyaf groups are present in Metro Manila. AFP also assures that they are ready to investigate and hold accountable other personnel who may be found involved in the reselling of firearms and ammunition to state enemies and that they will continuously coordinate with the PNP regarding the matter. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Police Chief Ronald De La Rosa is determined to track down the contact of an arrested Abu Sayyaf gun supplier from inside the government arsenal. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
Trace ito kung saan ang origin ito. So, most likely ito, nagagaling rito talaga sa either sa government, ito mga government supplies, military supplies. Kasi pag civilian, malabong makakabili nito ng legally, malabo.
Philippine National Police Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa is convinced that the recently arrested gun runner suspect Unding Kenneth Isa has a conspirator in the government. According to General de la Rosa, an ordinary person cannot just purchase high-powered firearms such as M79 barrel, M203 grenade launcher, M16 from an ordinary gun store. Such kind of firearms were among those confiscated by the CIDG Anti-Transnational Crime Unit inside the suspect's rented house in Barangay West Crame, San Juan City. The items, together with 1,000 of bullets, were still intact inside the bags marked with the government arsenal DND seal, allegedly ordered by an Abu Sayyaf commander. The AFP, however, confirmed that the bullets and guns that they are using have come from the government arsenal through the Defense Department.
Pag doon sa mga bala na specific na kailangan ng ating armed forces na ang sinusupply sa ating mga operating units, ang gumagawa nito ay ang Department of National Defense Arsenal. Yun ang tinatanggap natin.
Aside from Abu Sayyaf, Kenneth also trades firearms with politicians and drug lords in Mindanao. For this, the suspects will be charged in violation of Republic Act 10591. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Bureau of Corrections, or Bucor, installs 2 high-power signal jammers inside the new Bilibid Prisons Building 14, which houses more than 40 high-profile inmates including Raymond Dominguez, Peter Co, and JB Sebastian, who allegedly managed drug operations within the medium security compound. Bucor aims to cut off inmates' communication with people outside the penitentiary to stop the illegal drug transactions.
Tinanggal nila yung cooler, may mga nakatago palang ilang cellphones yun doon. Pati yung mga upuan maliliit, yung stool. Halimbawa, yung upuan ng naglalaba, no? Merong doon, may taguan ng cellphone. Maaring meron pa. May mga may nagagamit pa sila na mga gadgets doon sa loob, especially cellphones.
The signal jammers, worth 20 million pesos each, may affect nearby houses with their 20-meter radius. Bucor plans to install more of these within the NBP's maximum and minimum compounds if they will be effective. A Japanese national has sought the help of Serbisyong Kasangbahay. Meanwhile, a blood bank center in Cambodia has expressed gratitude to members Church of God International. Jun Soriao tells us why.
A Japanese national approached the program Serbisyong Kasangbahay, seeking help returning home to Japan. Doi Masahiro has been overstaying for 3 years in the country. He says he was deceived and his passport was stolen. In addition to that, his creditor took his child.
Yung asawa niya, iniwan siya.
Opo.
Iniwan siya nung
Kasi
nawala yung passport.
Hindi naman sila kasal pa po.
Hindi sila kasal.
Opo.
Tapos yung anak niya doon sa asawa niya na nanloko sa kanya. Ilang taon na yung anak niya?
4 na taon na po.
4 na taon. Tapos nasa kanino ngayon yung anak niya?
Yung doon sa tinitira niya kinapag-autangan niya.
Doon sa kung saan siya nakatira?
Noon, oo. Noon, doon siya nakatira.
The program consulted with the Bureau of Immigration to be able to help Masahiro return to Japan and get his child back.
Dapat po gawin ni Sir ay dumulog muna sa embahada niya para makahingi ng travel document or ma-reissuehan siya ng passport.
Yes.
Because we need to ascertain the identity of the Japanese national. Tumulog muna siya sa barangay o sa police dati po sa mga bagay na yan.
Okay.
Kung talagang tinuli yung anak niya, kung bawal na siyang pahintulot, maaari nga po isang pumasok bilang kidnapping.
And in Thailand and Cambodia, around 40 donors participated in Members Church of God International or MCGI simultaneous bloodletting activities. The number of blood bags donated from the activity reached 25. Siem Reap Blood Bank in Cambodia thanked MCGI for conducting the bloodletting activity.
នាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះឆាយកំឈុនប្រធានមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលដល់ឈាមខេត្តសៀមរាបសូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណដល់ក្រុម MCGI and UNTV ពិសេស Brother Eli Soriano and Brother Daniel Rason ដែលតែងតែចូលរួមបរិច្ចាគឈាមដល់មជ្ឈមណ្ឌលដល់ឈាមខេត្តសៀមរាបយើងរៀងរាល់6ខែម្ដងដើម្បីជួយសង្គ្រោះជីវិតអ្នកជំងឺដែលត្រូវការឈាមចាំបាច់ ទន្ទឹមនឹងនឹងនាងខ្ញុំសូមអំពាវនាវដល់ប្រជាជនខ្មែរយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាចូលរួមបរិច្ចាគឈាមទាំងអស់គ្នាដើម្បីជួយសង្គ្រោះជីវិតព្រោះការបរិច្ចាគឈាមវាមិនប៉ះពាល់ដល់សុខភាពអីទេហើយក៏ជាអំពើមនុស្សធម៌មួយដ៏ល្អបំផុតចាអរគុណច្រើន
Meanwhile, Serbisyong Kasangbahay in partnership with MCGI Blood Donor Society helped Mrs. Russell Palma of San Bartolome, Quezon City, who asked help for his brother-in-law who is currently confined in the hospital.
May re-refer ako ha. Tulungan natin para mabigyan sila ng dugo dahil kailangan nung kanyang bayaw. Assist namin kayo at tulungan po kayo namin.
Jun Soriao for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Coming up, Typhoon Maggie makes landfall in Taiwan, threatens southeast China.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton spar in a highly contentious and aggressive debate in New York City.
And families and friends will now enjoy the fresh air in the iconic Eiffel Tower.
More from Y News after this break. Typhoon Helen is about to exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA says it located a cyclone at 400 kilometers northwest of Basco, Batanes. It is packed with maximum sustained winds of 160 kilometers per hour and gustiness of 225 kilometers per hour while moving west-northwest at 19 kilometers per hour. Signal number 1 is still raised over Batanes group of islands where rains and gusty winds will be experienced. Light to moderate rains will likewise be experienced in Metro Manila, Ilocos Region, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Cagayan, Apayao, and Benguet. The rest of the country will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. It is risky to venture over the northern and eastern seaboards of northern Luzon due to high waves. PAGASA is observing another tropical cyclone in the east of Luzon and it may enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility by this weekend. Authorities suspend train services and cancel flights as Typhoon Maggie starts lashing Taiwan. Amiel Pascual tells us why.
Early this afternoon, Typhoon Maggie makes landfall in Hualien, east of Taiwan, prompting suspension of Wenhu Line services and Red Line north of Minchuan West Road of the Taipei Metro, as well as the Taipei bus services. Here in Songshan International Airport, flights have been cancelled since 9 a.m. today and some have been delayed since yesterday, leaving many passengers stranded for hours already. Work and classes have been cancelled across Taiwan, while the Central Weather Bureau has issued warning for extremely torrential rain in some counties. In addition to the threat of damaging winds, coastal flooding and battering waves, Maggie is expected to deposit torrential rainfall through Wednesday. The Taipei city government assures that they are ready to respond to situation, especially through the night.
We are fully prepared if anything happens. From the noon to the late evening today is the most dangerous moment. So we have paid a full careful monitoring about the developing situation now.
Meanwhile, Attorney Keith De La Cruz of the Manila Economic and Cultural Office in Taiwan says they have been constantly monitoring the situation of Filipinos in affected countries to ensure their safety.
Regular naman sa amin na nag-advise sa Facebook na mag-ingat, huwag na lumabas kung hanggat kaya. Saka yung city government naman itself, meron ng announcement na yun nga, may suspension ng work. So, pati yung mga brokers, nagsabi na rin na walang mga pasok, huwag na lumabas, bawal mag-stay out.
After interacting with Taiwan's mountain, mega circulation will weaken before making its final landfall in Southeast China to the northeast of Hong Kong Wednesday. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Taipei, Taiwan.
U.S. presidential candidates show off their persona at the first presidential debate in New York City. Noni Ramos will tell us why.
Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump interrupted each other repeatedly in the first presidential debate that could reshape the 2016 U.S. election. Clinton had set out to present herself as the calm candidate until the rest of the debate, making the audience viewed her as the winner of the square-off. Trump started out well by dominating the debate in the early minutes of trade deals, accusing Clinton of secretly supporting the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. But Clinton knocked Trump for not releasing his income tax returns and said that decision raised questions about whether he was as rich and as charitable as he has said. She noted that the few years of tax returns he had released showed that despite his wealth, he had paid no federal income tax.
So
that makes
if
me
he's
smart.
paid zero.
Trump attacked Clinton for her trade policies and said she would approve a controversial trade deal with Asian countries despite opposing it as a candidate. Clinton rejected the criticism.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but that is not the fact.
Moderator Lester Holt struggled to rein in the candidates, with discussions about trade policies suddenly shifting to the fight against Islamic State as Trump accused Clinton of giving away information to the enemy by revealing on her website how she planned to defeat the group. Clinton said that unlike Trump, she at least had a plan for fighting Islamic militants. The debate was the first of three between the two candidates, and the American voters go to the polls on November 8. Noni Ramos, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Accord brings an end to Latin America's longest-running conflict, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people. RC Reyes tells us why.
En nombre de las FAREP, ofrezco sinceramente perdón a todas las víctimas del conflicto por todo el dolor que hayamos podido causar en esta guerra.
FARC rebel leader Rodrigo Londono, also known as Timochenko, asked the victims of its war with the Colombian government for forgiveness after he signs a historic peace deal ending 5 decades of conflict. The agreement to end Latin America's longest-running conflict turns the FARC fighters into a political party. A special pen was used to illustrate the transition of bullets into education and future.
Colombia se prepara para aprovechar su máximo potencial. Y esta tarea será de todos, no solo del gobierno o del Estado, sino de toda la sociedad. Este es el nuevo país que avisoramos. Una Colombia en paz, una Colombia con más equidad, una Colombia mejor educada, que nos permita progresar y ser felices.
The signing of the peace deal now sets the stage for a national vote to end a guerrilla war born in the 1960s, out of frustration with deep socio-economic inequalities that outlived all other major uprisings in Latin America. The FARC, or Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, began as a peasant revolt, became a big player in the cocaine trade. Now its 7,000 fighters must hand over their weapons to the United Nations within 180 days.
Showing its support for the peace deal, the European Union on Monday removed the FARC from its list of terror groups. Colombians will now vote on October 2 on whether to ratify the agreement, seen to result positively. RC Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Bogota, Colombia.
Families and friends have something new to look forward to at the iconic Eiffel Tower. June Garin will tell us why.
Oui, c'est une journée sans voiture, c'est symbolique. Et en même temps, ça nous permet d'imaginer ce que peut être la ville de demain, ou en tout cas une ville où on se déplace autrement. Et donc à travers cette mesure, aujourd'hui, on souhaite inviter tous les Parisiens et tous les amoureux de Paris à se réapproprier l'espace public, à se déplacer autrement, à profiter de la ville dans un cadre exceptionnel. Et puis pourquoi pas se dire qu'au quotidien aussi, on pourra se déplacer autrement.
Half of Paris' streets and avenues were car-free on Sunday as part of Mayor Anne Hidalgo's fight against air pollution, allowing families and tourists to wander on the roads around landmarks such as the Eiffel Tower and Champs-Élysées. The car ban covered a larger part of the city than last year's event, closing off more than 650 kilometers of roads in the French capital. The monthly closure of the Champs-Élysées is one of the 9 new routes that will be reserved for pedestrian and bicycle traffic on Sundays and public holidays as part of the city's anti-pollution program.
The first day I smell the city and I smell the gas of the cars, and now it's much better today. We like it a lot. I could do all the day biking in Paris. It's very nice, even in the rain.
It is a big enough move to plan your next Paris trip to coincide with the first Sunday of the month and take in the beauty of one of the world's most famous streets at your own pace. Sunday's Car-Free Day is part of a series of environmentally friendly moves by Socialist Mayor Hidalgo after several episodes of oppressive smog in Paris. June Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
Australian farmers are opposing the proposed lower tax rates on backpackers. Early Briones tells us why.
Australian Treasurer Scott Morrison on Tuesday, September 27, lowered a proposed tax on backpackers who work in the country. Morrison said the government was frustrated at the difficulties in getting locals to work in many parts of Australia.
The government is frustrated that in many parts of Australia, whether it's in northern Tasmania or northern Queensland, Darwin, southwest and Western Australia, where there are real difficulties in getting Australians who may be in these places to actually work in these locations.
Under the new proposal effective from January 1 next year, working holiday makers from overseas will pay tax of 19.5% on every dollar earned, which is way lower from the Australian government's original plan to impose a 32.5% tax.
Now, the government will also reduce the visa application charge for working holiday makers by $50 to $390. These changes will lower the cost of coming to Australia for working holiday makers and leave them with more money in their pockets to be able to spend here in Australia in communities right across the country.
Australia has encouraged backpackers to work on farms with special visas, allowing them to stay for a second year if they do 3 months' work in rural Australia. But farmers said the 32.5% tax proposal would deny them important workers. Rural opposition said the policy would undermine the goal of growing agricultural exports. Farmers said the higher tax would discourage holiday workers who make up the bulk of fruit pickers at harvest times. This would threaten the country's fruit industry, which is set for record exports of about 2.27 billion Australian dollars next season. Early Briones, UNTV News and Rescue, Sydney, Australia.
Entertainment conglomerate Disney is working with a financial advisor to evaluate a possible bid for Twitter. Aaron Romero tells us why.
The list of potential Twitter acquirers continues to grow. In addition to recent reports that Salesforce and Google are interested in possible buying the real-time news service, Disney has signified interest on acquisition bid as well. There are a number of reasons why Disney may be interested. Although the service only has about 300 million users, far less than Facebook's 1.5 billion, it has a treasure trove of data on the interests and behavior of those users. That kind of data, which could be used to target advertising and other content to users, is undoubtedly part of what Salesforce and Google see as valuable about Twitter. And a media company like Disney would likely see what value as well. Disney also owns ABC News and sports giant ESPN, and Twitter has become both a real-time news source of remarkable power and a place where millions of users go to discuss both the news and in particular sporting events. Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey is also on Disney's board of directors.
Twitter went public in November 2013 at $26 a share. The shares peaked above $74 just over a month after its IPO, but have been on steady downward trajectory since. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Golf legend Arnold Palmer's family thanks his supporters. Meanwhile, Britain wins in a slacklining competition in China. Aaron Romero is back to tell us why.
In soccer, Porto looks creating history when they face Leicester City in the Champions League today. Porto have never won away to an English side, losing 14 of their 16 matches in the country.
History tells us that FC Porto never managed to win in England. So, but these moments are made to, like records, to break and to make new achievements and break history.
Meanwhile, Jedediah Duhan from United Kingdom walks as the winner in the slacklining competition held at Mount Wuling Great Rift Valley in southwest China's Chongqing municipality, with athletes not only walking but also performing stunts like jumping and somersaults. And the family Arnold Palmer, one of golf's greatest players who died of a heart attack on Sunday at the age of 87. Thanks the world for all the support they get after the golf legend's demise.
I just want to pass along my gratitude to everyone, family, friends, media. There's been an enormous outpouring of support. It is a very difficult time, but the one thing to remember is what a great life my grandfather was able to live, and the fact that we were able to share it with so many people.
The family also announces it would have a small personal ceremony over the weekend so as to not interrupt the golf schedule and this week's Ryder Cup, as Palmer would have wanted, and a public ceremony will be held next Tuesday, October 4th on La Trobe. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
The game plan of the Bureau of Customs Transformers worked, making the team win the first round of eliminations against the judiciary matches. Bernard Daddies tells us why.
Set that pick. Aquino dives to the basket. Ignacio at the height. Pirouette move coming from the skyscraper.
Powerhouse team BOC Transformers defeated the two-time UNTV Cup champion Judiciary Magis in a neck-and-neck match last Sunday at the University of Makati Gymnasium.
Tinignan namin kung sino yung mga imports nila, no? And yung tendencies ng imports nila, tinignan namin kung saan sila malakas, kung saan yung strengths nila and yung weakness nila. So siguro yung game plan namin nag-work lang. Yung pinag-usapan namin during the practice, nag-work ngayon.
The tandem of PBA legend Marlo Skyscraper Aquino and playing coach Kenneth Captain Marvel Duremdes failed the judiciary in clinching their second consecutive win. The Magis took control of the game in the first quarter but struggled in the later part until the last buzzer sounded and the Transformers dominating the paint area. The Judiciary Magis were not able to make a good play. The game ended with 79-68.
Nagkaroon lang siguro ng lapses na ron. Sayang, isa na lang yung lamang eh. Kala namin magtutuloy-tuloy na eh. Naganda rin sa amin yung costume eh dahil talagang powerhouse talaga eh. Imagine si Marlo dominated niya yung rebounds eh. Plus yung punto sa inside lane.
The BOC says team dedication has been a great help in their practices.
Yung experienced players kasi namin, yung mga imports, very very vocal sila sa mga locals. So nagtuturo din sila kung paano yung execution. So yung mga locals naman, willing sila to learn. So nagiging madali lang yung practice namin.
Marlo Aquino was hailed as the best player of the game with 26 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. Meanwhile, Don Camaso and Chester Tolomia of the Judiciary Magis had a combined 29 points. Bernard Daddies for UNTV Cup Season 5.
Those are the reasons behind the news, September 27, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.